Hello, this is Carl Blischka, Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. Thank you for joining our overview of the COVID-19 NEA Grants to the Arts application process. The arts have always been central to making Pennsylvania's communities great places to live and work, and the Council's mission is to strengthen the cultural, educational, and economic vitality of Pennsylvania's communities through the arts. However, we know that the creative sector has been especially impacted by COVID-19 because so much of what we do involves bringing people together. As our sector deals with the unprecedented impacts of COVID-19, the arts must continue to be recognized for their contributions to the health and vibrancy of our communities, as well as an important source of employment. Through the Federal Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, also known as the CARES Act, Council received funds via the National Endowment for the Arts to distribute to Pennsylvania arts organizations and programs affected by the spread of COVID-19. Given the unprecedented circumstances, Council has designed an application process that is streamlined and simple to access. During this overview, Council staff will review the application and review process for this grant opportunity. Hopefully, we will help answer any questions you may have. We wish you and all those who benefit from your work a bright future.
Hi, my name is Jamie Dunlap, and I am the Chief of Creative Catalyst and Lifelong Learning at the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. And I'm going to go over a few of the instructions for the COVID-19 NEA Grants to the Arts guidelines. And I want to start with just highlighting a couple things right at the top of the guidelines, which you should see on your screen. The due date is Friday, June 12th at 5 p.m. and we will not be doing any extensions. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware that all of the applications have to be in by Friday, June 12th at 5 p.m. and the entire process is online. So you don't have to submit anything to us in hard copy. So Carl just talked to you a bit about what the funds are for and a little bit about our process. And I'm going to go into now eligibility for these COVID-19 NEA grants. And also I'll talk a bit about the use of funds. So for eligibility, you'll see right in the middle of your screen where the red star is, the organizations that are eligible to apply are fiscal year 2019-2020 awardees of our AOAP, or Arts Organizations and Arts Programs grant. So whether you received an award this year yet or not, you are eligible to apply. Another criteria is that you have to have some staff, whether that be full-time or part-time. We realize that people may have shifted down to part-time and there might be less staff than normal, but there needs to be some staff, either in a full-time or part-time capacity with the organization. Something that's different than what many of you are used to is that you have to have a DUNS number. These are federal funds. It's a federal grant. So in order to accept funds, you have to have a DUNS number. And it actually doesn't take too long to get if you don't already have one. It's just a couple of days, 48 hours, as you see there. But if you don't have one, there's two ways you can go about getting that. You can go online to the website that you'll see right there in the guidelines, or you can call the phone number that's listed. This DUNS number has to be included with your application. If you don't have it, you won't be able to submit it because it's a required field. So keep in mind the 48 hours or 2 days approximately it takes to get that number, and make sure that you plan for that with the due date being Friday, June 12th at 5 p.m. because that is a requirement of this grant. Another eligibility criteria is that there has to be ongoing operations. So whether that is rent or utilities or a mortgage, but some type of ongoing operations that your organization has. The next section I want to just talk about briefly are the use of funds for these grants. The NEA has given us guidelines on how funds can be used, and so we're passing those guidelines on to you folks. This is really a recovery support program. So we're looking at how we can support organizations that have those ongoing expenses like salaries and facilities, rent, those types of things. So that's what the funds can be used for. So you'll see here that, let me see, I have my little red star again, that between July 1 and December 31st, the funds have to be used for one of those three bulleted areas: salary support, fees for maybe artists or maybe contractors that you work with for the organization, or facility costs, as I said, mortgage, rent, utilities, things like that. There is going to be a part of your grant application that asks you which of these areas you will be applying the funds towards. And we ask you just to pick one. As you'll see in the very next section here, the grant amounts are going to be determined really on how many applications we receive, but they're going to be probably between $1,500 to $3,000. So these aren't huge grants. So we felt comfortable saying that people or organizations needed to select just one of those categories to apply the funds. Again, that's salary support, the fees for contracted personnel or artists, and the facilities costs. So in the application, that's a requirement as well. You'll need to select one of those areas. And then finally, as I just mentioned, the grant amounts. The grant amounts are going to be determined based on how many eligible applications we receive. And based on the funds that we have available, we will determine, everyone will get the same grant amount. We'll determine how much those amounts will be based on how many applications we get. So again, anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000. One thing I forgot to note, this is unique to our program, AOAP applicants, is that these grants are non-matching and they are non-reimbursement. We really want to get these funds out to all of you as quickly as we can to help right now or as soon as we can get them to you. Again, these are recovery funds. So these are non-matching, they are non-reimbursement, so we can process much quicker. So that's the section that I wanted to talk to you all about. Certainly, if you have questions, we're here to help. But I'm going to pass it over to Amy, and she's going to talk about the funding process and the federal requirements. And then we'll go from there. So Amy, I will pass it to you.
Hi, my name is Amy Gabriel. I'm the Chief of Finance and Administration for the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. I will be going over the funding process and federal requirements of the COVID-19 NEA grants to the arts through the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. First, the funding process. Applications are due online to the PCA by June 12th at 5 p.m. No extensions will be granted. PCA staff will review applications for eligibility and completeness and address any questions. Our council will then act on grantees and award amounts. Those receiving awards will be sent a notification outlining the next steps in the grant process. The payment process will then begin. As always, there are many approval letter levels before payments are made. It may be several months before a payment is received. ACH payments are quicker. Please reference the information at the bottom of the one-page guides to sign up if you have not already done so. Or here's the website for ACH payments. Please know that the PCA staff will work as quickly as possible to process payments. This is our highest priority. I will now go over the federal requirements. A DUNS number must be included in your application in order for it to be submitted. It is a requirement to accept a federal grant. If you don't already have one, you can go online or call the phone number listed. Your zip +4 is also required, so please make sure you enter the +4. If you don't know your +4, you can look it up through the USPS.com website, which is listed here. You also must clearly acknowledge support from the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Downloadable logos are on the PCA and NEA websites. And finally, your organization may have additional requirements for your next audit from your accountants. You should check with them on these possible additions. And now I will turn it over to Seth Poppy.
Hello, and welcome to the COVID-19 NEA Grants to the Arts application walkthrough. My name is Seth Poppy. I'm the Director of Data Systems and Creative Services here at the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, and I'll be guiding you through this application. You see here I have an image of the ESA home site. ESA stands for Electronic Single Application, and it is our grant application site. It's developed by the Department of Community and Economic Development, and it's often referred to as eGrant. You see the login page here. Login accounts are for individuals, not organizations, and are powered by the Keystone login. If you've never signed in before or registered before, you will need to do that. There is a Keystone login help desk, which I have the number here of 877-328-0995. That's also available on that registration page. If you have other technical issues with the site, DCED has a great customer service center, 1-800-379-7448, or you can email them at ra-decedcs@pa.gov. Once you've logged into the site, you can create a new application. First step will be to name your application. I'd recommend using a project name similar to what I have here, which is just your organization name / COVID relief. But you can name it whatever you like. That's for your reference. Under the do you need help selecting your program, I'd recommend selecting no, and then hitting that create new application button. Now that you've created your application, you'll need to select the program you're applying to. In the text field, enter the search terms COVID NEA, just as I have here, and hit the search button. That will return the search results. You'll be able to scroll down and locate the COVID NEA Grants to the Arts application. And you'll see that here, and you'll also notice that I do not have an apply link. This is a common issue, usually caused by a lack of having the FEIN in your user settings. So let's take a look at that. To check your user settings, you're going to hit the Home button and then hit the User Settings link in the orange bar there. That will give you a chance to check what you've entered and make sure that your federal employee identification number is entered properly, as that is what gives you access to this grant program. So here we are in the User Settings menu, checking the account information. We're going to verify that our federal employee identification number is entered correctly with no hyphen or dash. All the required fields have a little red diamond next to them, so you're going to need to make sure those are entered. Once you're done, you're going to hit that Update button at the bottom here, and that will return you to your already started application page. You can then scroll down under the incomplete applications and find your recently started application, and then hit the Edit button to continue. So now that we've successfully opened a COVID NEA Grants to the Arts application, I'm just going to give a brief overview of how to navigate the application. You'll see here in the orange bar, there are the different links. These are the different parts of the application. Program is the one we've just completed. You can click through each of these links to jump around the application or go back if you like. Each page also has a continue link at the bottom that you can use to advance. The application saves automatically when you're clicking any of these navigation links or when you click the continue link. This is the applicant information page. It should be relatively straightforward. Fields with red diamonds are required. One very important point that we've mentioned several times already is the DUNS number. We ask that you enter your DUNS number here. Please enter it to avoid delays in grants processing. It is not a required field here, although we do make it a required field later in the application just to make sure that we do have that. One thing that tends to confuse people in the site is this enterprise type. There's a lot of different things. Just pick the one that is closest to you to what describes your application, and keep in mind that other is an acceptable answer. Moving to the project site location page, this is where you'll enter your primary location. Make sure that's not a PO box. If you have a business address that's different than a performance address, I'm going to enter the primary performance location. Again, another field that is technically not required, but we do need for federal reporting is the zip +4. You must enter the full zip +4, and that's, again, will help you avoid any delays. If you don't know your zip +4, there is a USPS zip code lookup, which is quite handy. I have the link there. Under county drop down, you must enter your specific county that you're in. There is an option called statewide that is not an acceptable answer for this grant. And then lastly, on the project site location page, there's a field called designated areas. Those are not relevant to this application, and no entry is needed. Here we are on the narrative page. No narrative is required for this application, so you can just click continue. Please do not edit the narrative field. I believe you are able to edit it, but that is not necessary for this application. The addenda page is where we get to ask customized questions. I've split it into 2 slides here just to cover everything. So you'll see here, again, we've asked for your DUNS number. In case you missed entering this on the applicant page, we do require it here, and we'll be double checking those to make sure we have them entered. That's the first question here. Second question is the use of funds. It's a drop-down menu. You may select one of the items, which are salaries, contracted payments, or facilities. Underneath that, we have the signing authority section. So here you're going to want to enter the name and email of the person in your organization who will be completing the contract e-signature. You may sign on behalf for other people in your organization during that process. So just make sure that you're entering the name and email of someone who's going to be able to complete those administrative steps of going in and electronically signing the contract. And underneath that, we have a eligibility certification checkbox. It is required, but you just are checking yes that you are making those representations there. And this is the lower half of the addenda page. We're into the COVID impact data section. These fields are required, but are not used in determining your eligibility or award amount. So we're just looking for numeric entry only, no text, no punctuation or symbols is allowed. So just numbers here. And here we are at the certification page. This is the last page of the application. If you missed any required fields, this is where you'll be alerted to those, and it'll give you a link to go back to make those corrections or additions. Otherwise, you're just looking at the typical electronic signature agreement. You'll just want to complete that. And one thing that tends to trip up a lot of folks is the electronic attachment agreement. This is canned text that we don't, that comes with every application. We do not need anything sent in via mail. We're not in the office, so no paper is required. This text just says if we were to ask you to send things in, please do so. But that is not required. Once you have everything done here, you can submit the application and you're all done. Thank you for watching the application walkthrough. I hope you found it helpful. If you need assistance, I've listed here all of the help resources available to you. These are also listed in the guidelines. The technical questions for DCED customer service phone number, the Keystone login number, and staff listings for those that can assist you with the application. Thank you.